Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some today. Welcome to the virtual book club. It's the book club you can attend even if you didn't read the book. Virtual book club started in October of 2020 during the pandemic. I'm Benita Lee, and I'm joined by different guests all over the world to discuss books, connect with others, share thoughts, tell stories, and talk about the books that we read. With me today, we have like technical difficulties right now. Oh, it appears I have Chris Postel from Edmonton,
How are you?
Hal Garin, Florida man, Rob Berry, Houston. We have a problem. Avil, Toronto, Canada, and special guest today, Ferenc from Malaga, Spain.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
So I'm wondering if we're headed for the apocalypse because we've not seen Mr. Postel in quite some time. Although it's always good to see him, something must be wrong in the world.
Or things are going right. I think that's more likely. Is able to take a bit of time and reconnect with some friends. I think that's more of a better situation.
I think this is a situation, Rob, where, this is a highlight of my day and my week, and Chris does it when he's got nothing better to do.
Oh boy! Oh boy! I deserve this. I deserve this. I haven't been here in a while. It's
I just want you to feel the love, man.
Well earned. Well earned. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate him for gracing us with his presence. Now, shall we call you Chris, Mr. Postel, or Your Highness?
All of the above. I prefer Chris, but I'll answer to all.
They're giving him a hard time because he hasn't been with us for a while. He's been busy, merging his business with another one. I've actually this works out really well because I've wanted to introduce Chris to Ferenc for some time now. Ferenc is in the project controls project management world as well in Spain, and I was picking his brain the other day, so it's great that you guys get to meet at book club.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. And like I said, it's just a real pleasure to be back and see everyone and have some time to actually join the show again. So happy to be here.
Yay.
At least you made the right call.
Speaking of which, we are reading The Right Call from Sally Jenkins, and she's a sports journalist that has learned from the best. So it's going to be really, and it's a triple feature this month. We're going to be having book club 3 times this month. Hal wrote me a text message the other night and asked, how far I'd gotten along. And I've really only gotten about 2 chapters in. So if you're thinking about picking up the book, it's not too late and you won't be far behind. Yeah. Every day this Linky is finicky. So, what do you think of the book? I'm on chapter 2 and I found it really interesting what she says about delayed gratification and how, that's something that the best athletes have an ability to draw on, is like the fact that they know the benefits and the gratification that comes from delaying the win or delaying the like on the topic of Michael Phelps. Did any of you get there yet?
I got the book. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I read the first chapter, maybe even the first two, or listened to, because as you know, I don't really read the books. I just listen to the audio. What I'm looking for though is I'm really interested in when you read the cover of it, it talks about they're going to get into the science of leadership and how that works. Because when you look at sports, there's a couple of things that I noticed that are very interesting with the way it works nowadays. First, for me, is no matter how good of an athlete you are, every good athlete has a series of coaches for a bunch of different things. And historically, a lot of it was involving the actual sports itself. But what you see now is a lot of coaches teaching their athletes about life, from financial management to relationship management and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see how deep it goes into leadership using athletic analogies.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through. I don't know where that puts me in terms of chapters, but I don't think it's much further along than where you guys are. And I'm finding that I like the stories because they're all ones that, for the most part, ones that I have some casual familiarity with. The Michael Phelps story, the Diana Nyad story, his stuff about Bill Belichick, a bunch of the basketball coaches that she refers to, and things like that. So I'm finding it interesting, but I'm not walking away with any great insights as a result. So it's interesting, but this would be too unfair to say it this way, but I think it's more superficial than any deep analysis, to your point, Rob. Yes, there are great analogies from sports that would serve well in leadership and coaching and teamwork and all those things in a corporate environment, certainly. But
I listened to the whole book. This was the first book I listened to as an audio. It's never too late to start. I always read before, but it's really digestible in an audio format, especially. And yes, I agree with what you said, that it doesn't go too deep in terms of numbers and figures and deep science. We can't have much. Although the nice thing is that it's really easy, and complex things are broken down to really simple, digestible bits, which is nice. But you don't have all the studies behind. If you want to go really deep, maybe it's not the best place.
Right. There was one skill that caught my ear right after she talked about like delayed gratification in sport. She talked about the CEO's ability, like how CEOs need to be coached to learn how to win, to actually like succeed. And then I stopped listening, so that's where I left off. Do you, Hal or Ferenc, have any insight onto why a CEO needs to be taught to win or succeed?
Honestly, despite that I read the whole book, I don't recall that part. I rather recall, and I made a lot of notes while listening to it. But around the CEO topic, nothing specific, nothing outstanding. I don't know if for you anything came through, but for me, nothing that would be mind-blowing.
Nothing's ringing my bell, and because I'm doing the Kindle version, I don't have the book sitting right next to me that I can just kind of dive into and see would jump out at me, but on the delayed gratification piece, just in general, if a CEO has not, let's say you have a CEO who's new to an organization, they may have a strategic direction they want to take the organization, but it's not going to happen overnight. And just because you say you want things to be a certain way, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be moving in that direction just because you said it. And so they're going to have to, be, if the organization is going to win, and they're going to be the leader that's leading the charge, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take, a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the delayed gratification piece a lot. Even when you think about a lot of the athletes, for example, Usain Bolt talks about, I forget the exact phrase, but I worked 20 years for this 30 seconds or whatever. So you oftentimes work very, very hard and you don't see the fruits of your labor for quite some time. And some people never really see it from our standpoint, but from their standpoint, they're getting a reward. Like, for example, one of my most favorite running backs in the NFL is Barry Sanders. Now, Barry Sanders spent 10 years with the Detroit Lions,
Yep.
never won a Super Bowl. And I would say that the Detroit Lions were never really a standout stellar team. I mean, hence the fact they never won a Super Bowl. But he stayed there for 10 years because he had a love for the game and he had a love for that team and he was loyal to that team. Now, in 2004, they inducted him into the NFL Hall of Fame. So think about how many years that was. He started playing in 1989 and didn't get inducted into the Hall of Fame until 2004 and never won a Super Bowl ring after all that time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a ring to be, one of the best.
Yep.
So we don't have very much conversation about this book.
Well, I was just thinking of your question you asked. I haven't read the book, so full disclosure on that. But you asked the question is why would a CEO need to be taught to win? Because they're the leader. Your attitude funnels down throughout the organization, so everyone's expecting to follow you. So for myself, I wouldn't take swimming lessons from an individual that's never swam before, or reading lessons from someone that's illiterate. No offense to anyone along those lines. But let's be honest, I'm not going to pay you, or I'm not going to give up my time and commit my efforts to follow you and build your organization if you don't actually know what you're doing either. So if you don't know how to win, and whether, your definition of winning may be different than mine, it doesn't matter, but you need to be able to understand where you need to go and to get to that point. So whatever that message is you've communicated throughout your organization, you need to understand how to attain that. And your people need to know that, you've done everything you can to attain that and support their efforts to support you.
I like that.
Yeah, you know what? Let me add to that because Chris is spot on, but CEOs need to be taught to win because when you are winning, you have to make hard decisions. Let's just call it what it is. You have to do things that are for the best benefit of the organization, which honestly may not be for the best benefit of every individual involved. So there's a collective sacrifice that has to be made. And the CEO is usually the one that makes that decision and is also the one who typically delivers that message. Now, I'm going to say something that some people may not like, because if you dig a little further and you see what not winning is like, you can look at what Bud Light did, a while back. They engaged in campaigns to satisfy certain groups of people, but not the collective audience as a whole, their core buyer. And what happened was their stock dropped tremendously. I can't remember what it was. I think it's something like 30 or 40% at one point. Then it kind of bounced back. That's not a winner. And winning means making hard calls that not everybody is going to like, but you know who you're serving and you do your best to serve them.
I'd add to that, Rob. You triggered a thought because there was something in the book that was, insightful for me. Not only making the hard calls, but making the hard calls in moments where you don't have a whole lot of time to think about it.
Yep.
It's based on a lot of practice of experience with those situations in the past, so that when it's game time and that decision has to be made, and then you live by the consequences of that decision. You don't blame others. Well, that call, that fourth, going forward on fourth would have worked. That play would have worked if only. No, you take responsibility for having made the call. And how many coaches end up getting fired even though they're great coaches because the team didn't perform?
Yeah.
You take ownership, and you end up accepting responsibility and accountability for those decisions. And you don't see that in the work world as much as you should.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something. I'm here thinking. So back to the winning thing. So because you've won in the past, doesn't mean that you'll continue to win. Because circumstances change. So therefore, you do need someone to explain how to win.
Yeah, not everybody is familiar with the sports analogies, but look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, was like a god, and when it comes to coaches, and I don't think he will, but he is in a situation this year with the New England Patriots where if they continue to do what they're going to do, he might get fired at the end of the season. Is he any different? Is he any better or any worse as a coach? No, and so and he'll still accept responsibility and accountability for it.
Right.
No, I think you can be an experienced leader having 10, 20, whatever years of experience. You can have a lot of results behind you, just as Belichick does, but circumstances can change. Your life can change. A lot of things can change that we outsiders don't necessarily see. And if you do exactly the same that brought a lot of wins in the past years, could end up bringing terrible results this year, because there are so many factors that you just can't foresee sometimes. But what was in the book and what makes a lot of sense, again, back to NFL and sports analogy and Peyton Manning this time, he said, I'm not sure if I'm quoting him right, but pressure is something that you feel when you don't know what the hell you are doing. So I 100% agree with that one, because there will be times when you made a wrong call. There will be decisions that you take, and it will turn out that you were not right. But if you prepare and do the rehearsal and do your homework 100% all the time, that will take some pressure off you.
That was one of the passages I did highlight. I like that. Pressure is something that you feel when you don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah, I like that one too. Did somebody, I can't remember if it was on the back of the book or if Hal maybe made a post on it. I can't remember, but I feel like
I don't think I've done any posts from this book yet,
oh, okay.
but I will.
I posted it last week.
Oh, yeah, that's
with
where I
this
got
quote,
it.
because I think it sums up, 5 years of wisdom in one sentence, and it's amazing.
Yep.
Right. I remember that now. Yeah, thanks for that post.
Sure. So, and I also like in the book that it brings up NFL and NBA several times, but it also brings examples from swimmers, different kind of swimmers, Nayad, Phelps. The Nayad story, I haven't heard of it until I listened to this book. That's something completely new to me.
If you have, I think it's on, my wife put it on, so I'm pretty sure it was on Netflix. But the Diana Nayad story just came out recently on Netflix.
Oh, that's
and it's
amazing.
got
Mm.
Annette Benning playing Diana Nyad, and the coach, I can't remember her name, is God, what's her name? Silence of the Lambs.
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster is the coach. It's really well done, and it's a tremendous story. You know, of someone who had made, terrific swimmer, made the attempt to try to cross from Cuba to Key West, failed, went into sportscasting and all of that, and then at 60 decided, that she still had the passion and the desire to try it again, and the attempts that no one has ever done, to try and cross, from the ocean, from swim across the ocean in takes days. It's a great story.
Wow. Do you just float on your back if you get tired? Like,
You cannot stop. You can stop to eat and stuff like that, but you can't get out of the water.
oh, interesting.
And I mean, you're talking about, shark infested deadly jellyfish infested waters.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. Check it out. It's a good story. But then when you run across, the references to Nyad, and I'm sorry, her coach's real life name is escaping me. You'll know, you can put those references in context.
Well, and to you and Ferentz's point, even chess players were wrote about, and the fact that those physiological stressors that chess players might get have been proven to like aid in like weight loss. They've lost like 10 pounds in like a 10-hour tournament before. Isn't that crazy?
Stress burns calories.
It really does.
So you mean my weight loss plan needs to load on some stress?
Yeah,
Stress.
apparently.
It's not, because it's not working. I'm going the wrong direction.
Yeah, no, it's like crazy, like what the like adrenaline and just those clenching your muscles and the internal stresses can make you lose weight.
Well, there was something I did highlight because I have it in front of me on just the little sentences or things that I stuck out for me, and it's based on a 2019 paper. But even in a resting state, it is estimated the brain consumes about 20% of the body's fuel. So the science is behind the fact that the harder your brain needs to work, the more, your body is going to, consume in terms of energy.
Yeah, I mean, I said that in a joking way, but I was serious. I had read some research studies on that as well. Here's what I'm interested in, though. I'm wondering about the title of the book because it could be interpreted in many different ways. But I like the title, but I think I like it for a few different reasons. So, for example, The Right Call. If we go back to what Hal was saying earlier about winners, they make a call and then they're held accountable to it. You never know what the right call is. However, in that moment, you're making whatever call seems to be the best one based on the information that you have at hand in that given moment. And then afterwards, people are going to always judge you. Hence the saying, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. And for those who aren't aware of American football, the quarterback is pretty much the captain of the team. However, most games are played on Sundays when it comes to the NFL. And the Monday morning quarterback is the person who comes in on Monday and tries to critique it. Well, that person is going to have a different view. But I think most good leaders will be able to say, I made this call based on this information that I had at hand, and they will stand by it. Whereas bad leaders may cower and backpedal, but I think the best we can do is make decisions based on the information that we have right now. So that's why the title of the book really intrigued me, The Right Call, because really it's the right call at this particular moment, given the information that I have at hand, right? But you couldn't really make that a title.
Subtitle.
Right.
I I didn't get to read the book because I'm reading all these books for work. But this morning I was listening to an interview with her, and it was interesting. So apparently this came from the chapter that's titled Candor. And she was talking about this coach by the name of Pat Summitt. And what I found really interesting, so the story goes that she's a really tough coach, but people respect her because when she criticizes a player, they know that she's gonna offer them some sort of solution to correct the problem. And I thought it was so interesting because a lot of times people criticize you, but they don't have a solution. So I thought that was really good.
Now, for those of you who know Pat Summitt, legendary women's basketball coach, University of Tennessee.
Yep.
Another amazing story of someone who, just believed in themselves, and it played out in how she coached, the respect she got. One of the winningest coaches in women's basketball history, collegiate basketball history. And didn't she die not too long ago from Alzheimer's or something?
I think so. And if there is anybody to study, she is definitely one of those people, because I was watching a documentary on her at one point, and then I read a couple of books about her. And it was interesting to watch her because when they started asking her about her style of coaching, everything she talked about was really investing in the kids. She didn't really talk about basketball techniques or anything like that, which I'm sure she taught them. But outwardly, everything she really talked about was investing in and believing in the kids that she was coaching. And I just thought that was a unique, well, maybe it shouldn't be unique, but you don't, I don't know, you just have to watch some stuff on her. She is a phenomenal person. And I think she did pass away recently, Hal, but I just noticed that most of the time, everything she talked about was investing in the kids' self-esteem. And then if you did that, then you could teach them techniques, because if they believed in themselves, then whatever you taught them, they would begin to believe in it too. Yeah, that's what I meant to say in the beginning.
And it's just a sidebar comment here, but it's part of why I for a large part have stopped watching collegiate sports. I used to love watching collegiate basketball, collegiate football, and now, I'll watch, March Madness games and stuff like that. But during the course of the season, during the course of the college football season, I'll check the scores, but because the game is not what it used to be. It's now it isn't about, people who are pursuing a college degree who want to excel in sports. It's people who want to excel in sports and make it big time, and the degree is secondary. And so, but she was the type of coach that it was that, you're here to get a college degree. You just happen to play basketball.
That's it. Yeah. And because of that, they excelled at basketball and also academics. But
because she taught life skills to people.
Yeah.
Another important point. It was a really good video, 8 minutes. A lot came out of that 8 minutes. So
it was the book summary.
So it had to do with Peyton Manning and his coach Tony Dungy, whatever you say that. And the big thing for me, like sometimes you don't know what you don't know, because there was a problem with his feet, and the coach pointed that out. He had weak feet or something like that. So the coach pointed it out and came up with a solution with some sort of thing to help him. And I thought that was good. That as a leader, it's important for you to point out things that are not going right or issues with people and explain to them why. Because he didn't realize it, like the Peyton Manning, until the coach pointed out the issue.
Will you share that link in our chat or in the comments here if you have the time?
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. Oh, it was PBS. On PBS.
Oh,
8
cool.
minutes.
I like PBS.
Okay, let me go. You guys continue talking. Let me go look.
Oh, you don't have to do it right now.
Peyton Manning was, by the way, Peyton Manning was a horrible quarterback when he started his career. Most players who had the beginnings like he had would not have made it much. But he had coaches that believed in his talents, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's briefly explained in the book as well. How well he matched with Dungy. I was lucky enough to see those matches and in TV, but nevertheless, it was still amazing and exciting. And sometimes when you saw the coach and the player talking to each other, you saw the chemistry. You realize, oh, this is why it works. The amount of respect they have towards each other, and just the fact that what you just said, that some people, most of the coaches probably wouldn't be able to bring out a lot from Peyton, but he got to the right coach and he got the right mindset because he worked his ass off to deliver what he delivered. So there is a lot of work. Some of them was seen on the field, some of them wasn't. He was first to arrive, last to leave. He had this amazing mentality that helped him succeed. But if you have a super hardworking attitude and you go hardcore and focus and work, 14 hours a day, if you get assigned to a bad coach or a bad leader or someone who is not even bad, but just isn't matching your style, you won't bring any results. And that's super important. I really like that part in the book. How important is it to find the right coach or a good leader that you can work with and to make sure that your styles are matching.
Yeah, I think to that point, Tom Brady is going to be recognized as one of the greatest quarterbacks to have ever played the game. And I truly believe that if he didn't end up with Bill Belichick, he would not have had the successes that he had. It doesn't change Tom Brady's talents, the work ethic he brought to the game. It doesn't change any of that. But would he have, it's a hypothetical question, but would he have been as successful as he ended up being if he didn't have the right coach at the right time?
Top 5 defenses help with that too, but that's another argument.
Well, but that's the right coach too, because the right coach assembled the right team at the right time. But yes. But there are, Brady was an also ran college quarterback who was almost not drafted at all. And so and draw the parallels. This book is supposed to be drawing parallels from sports to business. If without the right leader and without the right team, it doesn't matter what superstar you are. You're not gonna shine. It has to be the right leader, the coach, and it's got to be the right team that you can be part of and, excel in.
Yeah, and I think the same thing can be said for Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal. They both weren't the best either. I mean, gee whiz, Mike got cut from his high school basketball team, and Shaq, even though some will argue he still can't shoot free throws, he eventually got better at it. But when you watch video of him in the beginning, he was just tall and lanky and not that coordinated, and he worked hard, but with the help of the right coaches. And Michael Jordan, my goodness, he's had a ton of different coaches to help him with a lot of different things in life. So the right coach, I think, can put you in the right position to be able to identify things you need to work on, and also give you a path on how to actually get from point A to point B. But you have to be open to that coaching as well.
Yes, this is something that also comes up in the book several times, that failure is important, but to make sure that you learn from it, you have to access it very candidly and very honestly, because you see a lot of posts, and basically every 10 minutes you will see a post on LinkedIn saying fail fast, failing is important, failing is the first step. But none of these explains that, yes, failing is an important step, but you have to study it very carefully, very honestly, be open-minded, because otherwise failure is just that, a failure. So it matters a lot how you digest and process it. And also all the people that are around you, your coach, your boss, your teammates, how they see the failure. What is that you can take away?
Yeah, you made me think about a really important point, because you have to be open to that criticism. And I think I hope we're not moving to a world where people are so triggered by criticism where they can't even hear it. Because when I played sports, I played football when I was younger, and you have your games on Friday or Saturday nights, and then on Monday morning, you sit down in the field house and you watch the tape. And when you're watching the tape, oh my goodness, the coaches are pointing out everything that you've done wrong, even if you won the game. That was initially, when I was young, that was one thing I couldn't wrap my head around, because I remember sitting there thinking, but we won. But the whole point in replaying everything was to actually get better. And the techniques that they used were quite interesting, because psychologically, coaches are some of the best teachers in the world. I remember, if you would do something wrong on a play, the first thing the coach would do is he'd ask you, hey, what happened on that play? And then when you'd explain it, he'd say, now what really happened? And then you try to explain it again. And so they get frustrated with you and they say, okay, what could you have done better? And then they teach you by making you point out your own mistakes, but you have to be mature enough to actually own those mistakes. And again, coaches are just something else. It's really funny. One of my old coaches, we still talk to on Facebook. Like a lot of us, the kids that he coached for the span of about 15 to 20 years, he still talks to us. He still remembers most of us too, which is really interesting. On birthdays, he'll be like, hey, happy birthday. Or recently he put up a picture of all of his students that he coached throughout the years. Each year was just posted. And I'm sitting here looking like, this man has touched so many lives. So anyway, sorry, I went off topic a little bit there, but I was just thinking about that.
Well, you made me think of not the movie, not the book, but the actual series Friday Night Lights, where they had it ran for a couple of seasons. You can still watch them all, I think, on Netflix, on one or more of the streaming services. About one of the most successful. It's based in fact, but it's fictional. Of one of the high school football teams in Texas, where high school football in Texas for some people is more important than religion. And the stories, interweave the stories about the kids. But the point I'm trying to make here is, the coach of the football team and the pressure he was under from the community and from the boosters and the backers when the team was not performing up to external expectations. And now he had to stick to his beliefs of what the core, he was there to be there for the kids, not for the sake of winning. There's some incredible lessons in that show. If you've not seen it, it's also quite entertaining.
Ted Lasso is another one that's on this topic too. If
Yep.
any of you haven't seen it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think it all goes back to gee whiz, a part of being a good leader is actually caring about the people that you're leading. I mean, imagine that.
And I did a post related to this on LinkedIn yesterday, the day before. You know, a lot of people rise to the level of leadership because of their own talents.
Yeah.
And they don't forget, they still think it's all about them when they get to the top, and they fail miserably because they can't, they don't know how to be a leader. They don't know how to make that shift in what leadership is really about. And real leadership is about everybody else but yourself.
Yeah. You know, in keeping with that, it makes me think about when I was younger and I was playing a couple of sports. I remember we had to travel a couple neighborhoods over to get to practice, and we were too young to drive, and so we didn't have cars. And I remember the coaches would drive around in their pickup trucks, and they would meet us at the gas station at the front of our neighborhood. So I lived way in the back of the neighborhood. There was a big hill. Anyway, the coaches would get in their pickup trucks, come to our neighborhoods, pick us up, take us to practice. And then by the time practice was over with, our parents were off work, and then they would come get us. And I remember thinking, they didn't have to do that. Like literally, they could have just said, well, we don't have kids showing up for practice, so we're not going to have sports this year. But they took the time out of their day to actually coordinate with one another. And this was back in the day before you would have gotten a fine for having kids riding in the back of your truck, right? They took the time to come to our neighborhood, wait for us while we lollygagged around initially because we didn't understand the importance of their sacrifice when we were kids. And then take us to practice, and then wait after practice until our parents picked us up from work. And that has nothing to do with the actual act of playing the game. But I remember too, in the beginning of the season, we didn't appreciate it. But as time rolled on, if somebody was lollygagging and late, we lit a fire up under them. Look, coach is waiting for us. You better get your butt to the top of this hill. And we understood the sacrifice that they were making. So it kind of makes me think about your point, how you can only rise to the level of leadership that you're under sometimes.
I wanted to touch on this because it's near and dear with the restructuring and the new organization and such of where we've gone this year because I'm in that role. I'm the managing director of Advando America, so I am in that exact role of leading the organization to where we want it to go and sharing that vision. I think it's important where a lot of people go wrong is they think, oh, they all work for me, I'm the boss, but they've got it wrong. Like, I work for the people in the organization. They're building the organization, they're doing the work, but it's my job to make sure they have the tools and the abilities and the resources to execute that work. So the way I like to see it and the way I like to approach it is I work for them.
Yeah. Realistically, the leader is the ultimate servant.
Yes, and that's something that comes from the inside. So there's a bunch of books and posts and everything around being a servant leader and focus on others. But I need that if you really want to succeed, those people who did succeed either as coaches or in the corporate world who achieved massive success, they all had that inner drive, not because they wanted to have 100 people below them or they wanted to have to make millions of money. They had that inner drive to create something great that motivated them to bring out these results. So they were, something was inside them that helped them achieving all these things. So that superficial things that you learn later on might help or might not help, but you need to have some inner drive to really succeed. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, well, and if you think about that, we saw that in a book we read earlier this year, Shoe Dog, where he had the drive and the desire, and he spread the message. This is what we want to do, and he was able to get people to glom onto that message and follow him.
You look at sports as coaches too, and a lot of the motivation to be a coach in even collegiate football, a head coach, is because of the money. It's, I mean, you look at what, these big name school college coaches make, and it's millions of dollars a year in salary, and then team performance bonuses and all of that. The coaches that you're referring to, Rob, they're the coaches who aren't doing it for money. They aren't doing it for glory. The satisfaction they're getting is to see young men become young kids become adults.
Yeah.
To the reference you're doing, I'm not meaning to, say it's just a men's thing, because it's not gender specific. The best coaches, are the ones who are doing it for some other reason, and money is clouded. All, initially professional sports and now collegiate sports, at least in the States.
Look after your teammates, look after your partners, and they'll look after you. It's really simple.
I think, extending that thought is it's just not about sports. That's the problem with corporate. That's the problem with businesses today. And there's a great book, called The Motive. It's a Patrick Lencioni book. It's really short. And, it basically, the whole point of the book is, what is the motive for you becoming the leader, becoming a CEO of an organization? Is it because it's a reward for all the hard work that you did to get there, to get to be the CEO, and you're rewarded now, so it's a privilege? Or is it, or is the motive, selfless, that you're there for everybody else? It's not about you. And, it's another fabulous book I've read within the last year. It's really short, but it's separate. You'll start, if you read it, you'll think about, different people that you've worked with and worked for, and those who rose to the top, and, who were terrible leaders and great leaders. And at the end of the day, it really ended up being, what is their motivation for being in that seat once they got there?
I've been thinking about something now during this conversation. So I've always believed that people who played organized sports at a young age make better leaders, whether they ascend to leadership positions in organizations or not, because I think you learn teamwork, you learn sacrifice, and you learn to work towards a goal. And you have all those lessons playing in organized sports. Now, I'm wondering, and this is just me just throwing something out here, but I'm wondering, you notice there's a drop in organized sports lately. There's also a drop in sports being played in the schools, like PE. I remember going outside every day in school. Now the kids apparently don't go outside every day. But I wonder if there's a direct correlation in that and the type of leaders that we're seeing in the corporate workforce nowadays. Because you still can't get over. Here I am, heck, I'm almost 50, and I'm still lamenting on lessons I learned as a kid from playing sports with the coaches. And so it makes you wonder, is there a correlation there?
I think there is. I think you're on to a very good point. Playing organized sports as a kid, at least certainly in my era, was one where, the parents didn't really, my parents really didn't care. They didn't care what sport I picked. You know, they rarely showed up to anything I did. You know, it wasn't. They were happy that I chose something, and they were happy I was pursuing it. You know, but they weren't part of it. I felt like I had to drag them to it. I found my way into swimming in high school, and competitive swimming, so I still remember the coaches I had to this day. I hated them almost every minute I was in the pool, and I have tremendous respect for them now, all these years later. And my parents were pretty damn wise. They were one where they aren't. They where kids find themselves today is they're doing something to satisfy their parents as opposed to satisfying themselves.
Yeah.
And so the factors today are you get crappy coaches, horrible organized team sports, and kids doing stuff not because they want to, because they're trying to satisfy someone else. And that breeding ground, thinking back, instilled so many values in me that you couldn't replicate.
Yeah. Well, and I think there were so many lessons that you learned. Like for example, I remember one of the positions I played. I was the kickoff return guy and the punt return guy. That was one of them. I played a few different positions, and I got hurt one time. And after I got hurt, it was never the same, because I literally was afraid for a little while to do the job that I was supposed to do. And I remember I was in one game, I was sitting back waiting for the kick to come. And it was a kick that came right towards me, and I dropped it. Just dropped it. Coach pulled me out of the game. On the sideline, he looked at me and he said, "You're not the same since your injury, so we're going to put Mark in." I said, "Okay." Was I upset? Yeah, but I was more upset at myself. And then I remember afterwards, Mark did a better job than me than I did at it. And so I was permanently replaced at that point. Now, I didn't get mad. I didn't storm off and cry. I didn't say I deserved to play because it was my old position. I sucked it up because Mark was actually better, and the team performed better with Mark in that position. But I think nowadays, a lot of kids, when that happens, they talk about their rights and they talk about all kinds of other stuff, and we lose sight of the goal. And I just remember learning a lot of lessons like that. And I had to fight to try to get my position back, which I never did because Mark was better than me.
Well, that's some demonstration of humility at a young age. Good for you.
No, he was better than me.
It's that ties into earlier on too, actually, with the conversation around New England. Because if everyone remembers when Tom Brady was going to be, no one wanted him. He was a draft reject. No one really wanted him on their team. He was slow at the 40-yard, like he was just terrible, right? But then he gets drafted and he's sitting on the bench. Drew Bledsoe got injured, and then that's when Tom Brady came in. So Drew Bledsoe was on a Hall of Fame career path at that time until his injury. And then, he had some good, decent years after that and such. But realistically, they lost that Super Bowl to Green Bay, and then they went on, and Drew Bledsoe never saw that success again. He kind of played filler for Dallas, and then his career petered out. And then Tom Brady went on to win, 7 Super Bowls. So, that's an interesting point you made right there about being replaced with injury. And it's unfortunate, even though you're good. Obviously, you were good at your job. You're good at returning punts. But, turns out the other fellow was better. And it turned, that's a good reference to what we've been talking about. And we made a lot of comments around the Patriots in this call. So that's interesting.
All right, Benita, bring us home.
What a great conversation. Yeah, we really managed to draw a lot of our personal stories into this one. I'm wondering if we should start our next book on the 30th. We were going to go over this book for I'm looking at my calendar right now.
Oh wait, what is the next book?
I don't think we have one yet. 9. We're going to do this week. We're going to do next week, and we're going to do the 30th. So I'm wondering if the 30th should be our next book.
I'll be ready for a new one by then.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll leave it to you to make the last call on that.
The next call.
Not necessarily the right call, but
But the next call could be the right call.
it's true.
But a
No,
call is
I
better
think
than
the last
no
call's
call.
been the right call.
Now, will that be the right call though?
You never know.
I don't know. We're all clearly coachable, though.
Don't you notice how a lot of these books are connected in some ways? Because there's so much we talked about coaching, and the last book was becoming coachable. So yeah. So I saw parallels there.
Yeah.
And then Rob was talking about Shoe Dog. So yeah.
Yeah, no, we've read some good books this year. Ferenc was telling me that he would have never caught on to our David Goggins book had it not been for the book club. I wonder if it just wasn't like it wasn't like a big launch in the Europes or something.
I don't know how it didn't get my attention earlier, but I'm really happy I saw it in your book club. I think it was one of the best I have read this year. Yes, he takes a lot of things to its extremes, but I still love his point of view and his enthusiasm. And I have a lot of quotes printed right behind my back from the book because, he can get through his ideas really simplified, but those ideas are really sometimes the simplest ideas and the simplest suggestions are the keys to amazing and to great things. And I really like that how he always moves forward. And when I read the book, when I read and was turning the pages, I don't know, in every 10th or 20th page, I felt that I should run, I should work out, I should do stuff now because he's doing it, I need to do it. It's no way I'm not doing it. It was really amazing.
Yeah,
That's one book some people really liked, and some book wish they'd never finished.
it's true.
'Cause that's the title of the book, is Never Finished. Sorry.
Oh, right.
I was reaching for that one. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks you all for joining today. What a wonderful day it is when you don't expect 6 people or 5 people join you, but they do. And I'm really enjoying reading, and yeah, it's going to be exciting to pick our next one because our next one will really be our last book of the year. It'll be the December book. So we really got to think about how we want to finish off the year. I will see you guys next week.
All right.
Until then, have a great week. Take care and happy reading.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.